Hello friends, welcome to my channel Nihira Techiees. In this video, we can implement Angular CRUD actions using NgRx pattern. Okay. For the designing point of view, we can use material UI components. For the API, I'm going to use JSON-SERVER REST API. Okay. So let's start the implementation. So here I provided all the steps. We can go one by one. First, let me create one brand new application. So in this command prompt, Angular NgRx CRUD. This is our application name. And we need on routing, so let me provide yes. And the style sheet, we can use the CSS. Okay, application created successfully. Let me open in the VS Code. Okay, this is our application. And the second step is let me create the required files that includes components, services, and the supporting file for the NgRx implementation. First, we can start from the components. Okay, ng generate component. We can create our component inside the folder of components. Okay. So my first component is associate listing. Okay, this is created. So we can create one more component that is for handling this add and edit functionality. Name is add associate. Okay. Okay, this is fine. Next we can create one service. So the service name is associate. Okay. Okay, this is fine. Next I am going to create the model files. I'm creating one folder store. So inside the folder we can have one more folder. The name is model. So in this model I'm creating one TS file. Here let me define one interface. Here let me declare the fields. The first one is ID. The data type is number. Next name. The data type is string. Then email. Next phone number. Then associate type. Then address. Next associate group. And the final one is status. Okay. The data type is boolean. So let me save this one. Next we can create one JSON file. So inside the source folder, first time created one folder. The name is data. So inside that I'm creating the JSON file. Okay. db.json. So basically this is the data storage for our JSON server API. Okay. So we can save this one. Next I'm going to create one model class. So as I mentioned, for the designing point of view, I'm going to use the material UI components. For the implementation purpose, we have to import lot of models. Okay. So for that, I'm going to create one common model. So there we can import all the required models. Finally, we can import the newly created model in our app.model. Okay. Material. Okay. So let me declare our model using this ng model decorator. So if it is not coming, we have to import it manually. So in this export side, we have to import all the models. Okay. So let me save this one. Next, we can go back to our app.model. So in this app.model, in this import side, we can import this material model. And then we are going to use the HTTP services. So make sure we have to import this HTTP client model. At Angular common/HTTP. So let me import it here. And the data handling, I'm going to use this reactive forms approach. So let me import the reactive form model. So let me save this one. So next in our routing side, I'm going to create only one route. So the path I am providing the empty value, the default one. And the component point of view, let me use this associate listing component. Okay. Okay, next let me move on the app component. So here we can see some default style and some content also there. So here we can keep this router outlet. Okay, other than that we can remove all the things. So let me save this one. Okay, we have done the basic changes. Next we can start the installation. First I'm going to use this material UI. Okay, so then only we can use all the components. Yes, so the theme we can use the default one, indigo pink. And then this typography styles, yes. Include and enable animation, yes. Okay, the installation gets completed. So next we can install the NgRx packages. Okay, so the first one is NgRx store. So once it is done, we can install this EFX. So the latest package is found, we can provide yes for the installation. I believe the latest version is 16.2. Okay, so once the installation completed, we can verify from our package.json. So next we can install this EFX. Okay, once the effect is completed, we can install this router store. So let me provide yes for the installation. Okay, the effects also installed. Next we can install this router store. Okay, and our final package is NgRx DevTools. Okay, the installation is completed successfully. So we can verify in this package.json. So as I mentioned, the latest version is 16.2. We have the store, FX router store, and also the DevTools. So additionally, we have installed this material UI also. Okay. So let me run this application. So the command is ngserve. Okay, our application is running in the port number of 4200. Okay, the basic text is loading. Okay. So next we can split our implementation into three types. The first one is designing, and then coding, and the final one is NgRx implementation. Okay. So we can start from the designing side. So let me go back to our component side. We can take this associate listing component. So let me remove the existing things. And in this material point of view, if you are using any of the component, make sure you have to import the required models. Okay, for that we have created the common file, I mean the common model files. So here let me include the required models one by one. So the first one is mat card model. Okay, mat card model. Okay, so similarly we can include some of the form controls also. Form field, then input, select control, button, checkbox, and then radio button. For the pop-up we can use the dialog, and listing the data we can use this table component. So there pagination and sorting is required. So the most of the components I have included. If I am missing something, we have to include later. Also we have to change the relevant models. Okay, so basically this model start from mat, and then our component end with the model. Okay, so let me apply the same changes for all the models. Okay, we have done. Hereafter we can use the material UI components. I'm first using this mat card. Also including some CSS changes. Okay, I just included two classes. See the output now. We are able to see one kind of box. Okay, so here I'm going to include one button. Add associate mat raised button. Okay, and the color, let me choose this primary, and see now, so the button also coming. So once we are clicking this button, I am going to open the pop-up. So let me include one function. So in this click event, function add. So similarly, we have to define this function. So in this TS side, first we can create the constructor and then defining this function. Next we can implement the hook ng on it. Let me implement this hook. Next in this constructor, let me inject this mat dialog, okay? So next, for opening the pop-up, I am going to create one common function. It's having two parameters. One is code and another one is the title. So code, we can provide the data type is number. So here we can open the pop-up. So this dot dialog. So in this dialog have this open function. So here we need to pass the component first. So the component, I'm going to use this add associate component. So then we can include some properties. So first width, I'm providing 50%, and we can include some animation also while opening and closing this pop-up, okay? So finally we can pass some data. Here I'm going to pass this code and also the title. So let me save this one. So next in our function add, we can call the same function, and the code we can provide default value is 0, and the title is create associate. So let me format this one. So if I'm clicking, we are able to see the pop-up is opened, but the design is not yet implemented. So let me move on this add associate component, okay? First in this TS side, we can include this constructor, okay? And here also we can implement this hook. So next I am going to initiate our form. So based on that, we can start our design implementation. For that, first I am injecting this form builder, okay? So the form I'm going to provide the name is associate form, okay? So using this builder, we can define our form. So here I'm going to define all the fields one by one. The first one is ID. The default value is 0, okay? And the next field is name. So the default value is empty. And here I'm going to include the validation also. So similarly, I'm going to include the other controls. Then email, phone number, address, and then type. So here the validation is not needed. Let me provide the default value only, okay? And then group. And the final one is status. So here the default value is, let me provide true. And in this email field, I'm going to include one more validation for checking the proper email. So what I'm going to do, let me include this validators dot compose. Here it is a kind of array. So there we can include multiple validations, okay? I included this required and also the email validation. That's it. So let me format this one. And in this type point of view, I'm going to provide two options. Either it should be a customer or a supplier. So the default value, I'm going to provide customer. I can provide the caps, that also fine. And in this group, I'm going to provide three default value, level 1, level 2, level 3. I'm going to load in this select control. So the default value we can provide level 1. Okay. So let me save this one. So next we can move on the designing area. So here also first I am using this smart card. So before that, let me include one form tag. So in this form tag, we can use the form group, and this form group is nothing but our form name. Okay. And let me include one submit event, ng submit, and the function name is save associate. So in this TS side, I'm just initiating this function. So inside the function, I'm just checking whether this form having the valid records. If it is valid only, I will allow for the further actions. Okay. So next in our designing side, so let me declare one variable here. So the title default value is create associate. And in this mat card content, we have to include all the form controls. At the end, we can include this mat card actions. Okay. So here I'm going to have two buttons. One is save and the type is submit. So this is also a mat raised button. So similarly, I'm going to have one more button. So that is for closing our pop-up. So the color we can provide accent. So let me save this one and see the design. Okay, actually this should be a title. So now create associate and let me include some styles. See now it is somewhat better. Okay. So next I'm going to include the form controls one by one. Mat form field. And here let me include this mat label and the label is ID, and then I'm including one input control. So in this input control, mat input directive and then our form control name, that is ID. So let me save this one. See the design, it is somewhat better. Okay. So the same way I'm going to include the other controls, and our second field is name, and the third one is email, and the fourth one is phone number, and then address. For the address we can use the text area. Other things are same only. And then associate group. For this one I am going to use the select control, match select. We can include this control name, so that is group. We can provide some default options. Okay. So the same way I'm including two more options. Okay. So let me save this one and we can see the output. See now. And in this ID field, actually auto generate field, in this create scenario it's not needed. And this email and phone number also we can have the same line itself. So what I'm going to do, let me declare one more variable is get it. So the default value is false. And in our HTML side, Let me include ngif. Okay, and in this form field I'm going to include one class, so that is mat50. So I just provided with this 48%, also included 1% margin. That's it. Okay, so the same class we can apply for our phone. See, now it is somewhat fine, right? So next I am going to include two more components. One is this type and another one is the status. For the type we can use this radio button. So the component name is mat radio group, and in this form control name we can use this type, and here we have to provide two options. Okay, mat radio button. So the first one is customer, and the value also we can provide the same. Color, let me choose primary. For the second option is supplier, maybe the color let me provide accent. Okay, so the same way I'm going to include the checkbox also, is active, and in this form control name let me provide status. See, now okay, our design should be like this only. Okay, so if I'm clicking the save also, so that's what we are seeing, this red color. And in this close button we have to close our pop-up. Okay, it is not closed, so let me implement the functionality. So in our TS side I'm going to inject mat dialog ref, and here I'm mentioning the component. So the same way, so let me format this one and declaring one more variable dialog data, and we can move all the declaration at the top. So in this hook I'm just assigning the value, and I'm creating one function, close pop-up. So this dot ref dot close. So let me include this function in this on-click event. Okay, this is fine. So the next thing is we have to focus on this associate listing. For that we need on data. So as I mentioned, I'm going to use this JSON-SERVER REST API. So let me start this API. So in this new terminal, I'm executing the command is JSON-SERVER watch. Then we have to specify the path. Source, inside the source we have the data folder. Then our db.json. Okay. Okay, it is started and running in the port of 3000. Currently it don't have any function. So let me include one mtri. Associate. This is our API endpoint. Okay. Next, let me move on the service side. So here already we have the constructor. So in this constructor, let me inject this HTTP client. And then declaring the base URL. And in this service, we can define all the functions one by one. So the first one is get all. Basically, it will return all the associate information. And we have to pass our API URL. Okay. So in case if you are using some real-time API, it may be developed using Java or a .NET. You have to provide the exact API endpoint only. Okay. Other than that, all are same only. And we know our return type class is, so that is associates. Okay. And our next function is get by code, and it's having one parameter, that is code, and the data type is number. So in this URL we have to pass this code also, and it is returning the single record only. And the next method is delete. Request type we need to change this into delete. Other than that, all are same only. And the next function is update. So in this delete there is no return type. Similarly in this update also. So in this update, having only one parameter, and the data type is associates, and the request is put request, and the URL is fine, and we need to pass the code. We can get it from the object itself, ID, and we need to pass the same object data. That's it. And the final one is create, and the request type is post, and here we can pass just a URL and the data. Okay. So now our service is ready, and also our component also available. So basically we can inject these services in our component in order to access our API. Okay. So since we are using this NgRx concept, we are isolating these services from our component. The API handling everything done through the NgRx only. Okay. So now let's start the NgRx implementation. So inside the store folder we have this model. So I'm going to create two more folders, associate and common. So here we can create the required files. First we can create the file for the state. So the name is associate.state.ts, and the next one is action, and the third one is effect, and the fourth one is reducer, and the final one is selector. So next in our model side, I am going to define one more interface, that is associate model. So here list, and the data type is associates, and the next one is associate object, and the final one is error message, and the data type is string. Next we can define our state, export constant, associate state, and the data type is our associate model. So here in this list we can provide us the default value is empty array, and in this error message the default value is empty string, and in this associate object we cannot directly provide like this, add missing properties. Okay. So ID is fine, name is fine, and in this type we can provide the default values customer, and in this group level 1, and the status also true. Okay. So these are the default values. That's it. Next let me move on the action side. So here first I am going to create the action for loading the associate. Load associate. Okay. We have a function create action. It is belongs to this NgRx store only. So using that we can define our action, and then we have to provide the type. Okay. So let me declare one variable. So the function is load associate. Next we can use this constant variable as the type. Okay. Okay, we defined our action. So basically, once we dispatched this action, it will fetch the data from the API. Okay, so there we can expect two response. One is the success and another one is the failure response. So let me create two more actions for handling this success and failure. One is load associate success and another one is load associate failure. Similarly, we can create the actions also. Load associate success and our action type is load action success and it is having one props. If the action is success, we can get the list of associate information. Okay. Similarly, in this fail action, we will get the error message. Okay, this is fine. So next, let me move on the effects. There only we are handling the HTTP request. Export class associate effects. Okay, and we need to use the injectable decorator. If it is not coming, we have to import it manually. So next I am creating one constructor and here I am going to inject the actions and also our services and associate service. Okay. Next we can create our first effect, load associate. We have a function create effect that is belongs to our NgRx slash effects. Okay. Here I am going to check the action type. We can check if it is load associate using this xcast map, that is the RxJS operator only. Here I am going to call our services. And let me use the pipe option again. Here I am just dispatching another action that is load associate success. Okay, and here we can pass the data also. Similarly, if there is any error, using this off operator, I am going to dispatch another action that is load associate fail. Okay, here I am getting the error because this map operator is not imported. Okay, see, the issue got resolved. Okay, so let me save this one. I just formatted. Okay, so next in this load associate success and this load associate fail, we can hand it from the reducer side. So let me move on the reducer and we can define our reducer also. So reducer is kind of a pure function, export function. So that will return the another function. Okay, associate reducer. It's having two parameters. The first one is state and the next one is action. And top of that, we can create the reducer, create reducer, and we need to pass the initial state, and our initial state is associate state. Okay, and then using this on operator, here I'm just checking this action, load associate success, and then state actions. So this on also belongs to this NgRx store only. Okay, now it is imported. Okay, so in this success scenario, first I'm returning the actual state. Okay, so after that I am assigning value into our list. Through the action payload we will get the list of associate information I'm just assigning into our actual list. Okay, and in this success scenario there is no error. We can make this into empty. That's it. So let me save this one. And the same way we have to handle the error scenario also. I'm just duplicated and the steps are same only. Instead of the success action we have to check the failure action. Okay, and make sure it should be imported, otherwise we will get the error. And in this failure scenario it should be empty array, and in this error message we can provide this error message. That's it. So let me save this one. And the next thing is we have to register this reducer into our store, and also we have to register this effects. Okay, so let me go back to our app.model. So here we can see this store model. Okay, so basically when we are installing this NgRx store, so these models are automatically imported. So if it is not happened, we have to import it manually. Okay, so let me include it here. Associate reducer. That's it. The same way we have to register the effects, associate effects, and this routing for the current scenario it is not needed. So let me comment this one. And this dev tools, it's fine only. Okay, we almost done. And the final thing is selector. Okay, so obviously once we have the data from our state, using the selectors only we can fetch the data. So let me define my selector. First we can define one feature selector, get associate state, and create feature selector, and then our model is associate model, and here we have to provide the object. This object is nothing but when we are registering this reducer into our app.model, so whatever instance I have provided here, the same instance only I supposed to use. Okay, there is a spelling mistake. I'm just included here. So next we can define our actual selector. So this is for getting the list of associate. So get associate list. For creating the selector also we have a function that is create selector. Here we need to pass this feature selector value. So see, here we can return this error message or associate object and also the list. For the current requirement I'm just returning this list. Okay, so the NgRx side changes we have finished. Now let me go back to our component side. In this associate listing, in this initial page load, I am going to dispatch the action that is load associate. Further, let me inject the store. Store is belongs to this NgRx store only, and let me declare one variable associate list, and the data type is associates. And here we need to use our selector, that is get associate list, and this is the observable data, so we can subscribe this one. So whatever data is coming, I am just assigning into our associate list. Okay, so before that we have to dispatch the action, so then only we will get the data. And our action is load associate. So the concept is simple. From the component we are dispatching this load associate action, so the request is directly goes to our effects side. From the effects we are calling our API. So once we got the success response, here I am dispatching this load associate success action. So then in this reducer side we are assigning values into our state. Okay, So once we have the value in our state, using this selector, we are fetching the data, the same data only. I am just subscribed here. So let me include console log. So this dot associate list. Okay, in this console, we are getting the error, cannot read the property of undefined. So look like it is coming from the selector. Okay, the selector, it is look like fine. So next, let me move on the reducer side. Okay, so now I understood. Actually, we not returned this function. So actually, this is our reducer class. Here I supposed to return this one. See, now we are getting the empty array only. So look like we don't have any data. So let me include some static data in our service side. I'm just added one set of record. Okay. So let me save this one. Now if I'm refreshing the screen, I am able to get the same data. Okay. So similarly, if you are installed the Redux package, so we can verify from here. See, so this is the initial request. So in this time, in our state, there is no data. Once this load associate success, see from this list, we are able to see this data. So in the difference, it is just included this much of data only. Okay. So anyway, it's fine. We are able to retrieve the data from our API. The next thing is we have to bind our table. So let me go back to our component once again. So in this mat card content, we can use this table and we need to use this mat table decorator. And then in this data source, we have to include the same data. And styling purpose, I just included one class. And the next thing is we have to define all the columns. So in this TS side, displayed columns. So this is the string array. So here we can define all the columns. Okay. So the first one is code, and the next one is name, then email, next phone number. So similarly, I'm including all the columns. Okay. So additionally, I'm including one more column that is for the action. So let me save this one. Next, in this HTML side, we have to include the rows. One is the header row and another one is the normal row. For the header row, we can use like this, mat header row. We have to use the created array using this mat header row definition. And the next tr is for the mat row. Next, using this ng container, we can include all the columns one by one. So the first column is code. Here let me include this th and td. Let me use this mat header cell and then cell definition, and we can provide the value code. So in this td side, I am using this mat cell, and then we can use like id. So let me save this one. Okay, look like it is fine. Let me see the output now. Okay, we are getting the error like cannot bind the data source since it is not the known property of table. So let me verify the table. Okay, so actually the directive should be like this, mat table. Okay, also this star is not needed. So let me save this one. See, now we are able to see one content, but actually it is expecting all the fields should be added. Okay. So the same way, let me include the other fields. And the second one is name. From the service also, we are getting us the name only. Okay. So let me add all the columns one by one. And the final one is for the action. So here I am going to include two buttons. Okay. So let me remove the existing contents. So let me include the button also. One is edit and another one is delete. Also in our TS side, let me declare one more property. And here we can assign the values to this variable mat table data source. Next in this HTML side, we can use this one. Why I am including this class means we are going to implement the sorting and the pagination. So that time it will be more helpful. Okay. Okay, this is added. So anyway, let me verify everything once again. Okay, in this ng container, yeah, actually, so here also we need to include this th and td. So in this td only, we are adding these two buttons. Okay, and the column definition is action. That is fine. So let me save this one. Okay, see the output now. The data is loaded fine. So this phone and associate group, the data is not loaded. So let me verify. Okay, from the service it is the mobile. So let me change this into phone. So this is loaded, and similarly this associate group. Okay, it should be an associate group. So I am just assigning the value based on our model, and the same way we have to include in our HTML side also. See, all the data are loaded fine. And in this status also, if it is the true, we can say it is active, otherwise it is inactive. So let me apply one small condition here. So next let me include the pagination and also the sorting. First let me include the pagination. Okay, for the pagination, so after this mat card content, let me include this mat card footer and then mat paginator, that is the component name. So we can provide the options are 5, 10, 50. Okay, and also we are enabling showing the first and last button. See, now it is somewhat fine. Okay, and then we need to map with the data. So what I'm going to do, so in this TS side, first let me access the paginator using this view child option, mat paginator. So the same way, mat chart. Next in this data source, we can include this paginator. For the same way, for the starting from Shwelty. See, now currently we have just one record. For doing the testing, let me include some more records. Okay, I'm just including 6 records and just changing this ID. Other fields are same value only. So now if I'm refreshing the page, so totally I have the 6 records So the first page I loaded 5 records. In the second page I have single record. So even if I'm changing this into 10, so in the first page itself all the records are loaded fine. Okay. The same way for the sorting. We did from the TS side the same way. The HTML side also we have to include some directives. First in this table we have to include this match chart, and then in this th side we have to include match chart header. So if I'm refreshing, actually we have the same records only, we are unable to verify. Maybe if I'm making some small changes, so the name I actually included some alteration. Okay, so see, so now our sorting also working. So next let me move on the add associate functionality. Okay, so already we have completed this design, and also we have used these reactive forms for handling this data. So the next thing is we have to work with our NgRx side. So the steps are same only. So the first thing is we have to define the actions. So the first one is add associate, and the second one is add associate success. Okay. So in this failure scenario, we can directly show the alert message. So the same way we can create the actions also. Add associate. Here we have to use the. So here we can use the add associate constant variable, and also it's having one props. So the data type is associate. And in this success action also, first we have to include this constant variable, and we can use the same props. Okay. So we can save this one. Next, let me go back to our effect side. Here, let me create one new effect. Okay. For handling our post request, add associate, that's fine. Just I'm checking add associate function, and in this service let me use this create, and here, and we need to pass the data. Basically we can get it from the action.input. Once the action is completed, let me dispatch our add associate success. Okay, and here let me pass the same data, and in this error scenario I'm going to show the alert message. For that, let me create the separate action. And since this alert functionality is the global one, we can reuse in the several places. So let me create one separate folder. The common it's already there. So inside that, I am creating one new action file. Okay, app.action ts. Here let me declare the variable first. Next our function, create action, and it is having the props. I am passing two values. Okay, one is message, data type is string, and the next one is result type. So that also the string. And the same way, let me create one empty action. So that's it. So next we can create the effects. So these are the one-time changes only. We can reuse in the several places. I just added the constructor. I'm just injecting these actions. For showing this alert, I am going to use the snack bar alert that is from our material UI. So first let me import the required model. Next let me go back to our app.effects. So here we can inject. I'm just injecting here. Next I'm creating a normal function. It's having two functions. The first one is message and the second one is result type. So let me provide the default value is fail always. And here we can open our alert. First let me passing this message. Then the closing button text. We can provide close or else OK. Vertical position top, and in this horizontal position let me use right or else end. Okay. Duration 5000 milliseconds. And finally panel class. Here I'm just checking if it is pass, we can provide green snack bar. So this is kind of class, the custom class only. Okay. And let me include some of the custom classes in this style side. Okay, this is fine. Let me go back to our effects once again. Show alert, create effect. Here we can check the action. If it is show alert, then using this Xcast map option, I'm calling this function and we have to pass the parameters so that we can get it from the actions. One is message and the next one is result type. After it is dismissed, I mean the pop-up is closed, return empty action. So let me format this one, and also we have to register these effects. So in our app.model, so already we have included this associate effects. So after that I am including this app effects also. Okay. So now this is fine. Next in our associate effect side, in this failure scenario, here I am going to call this show alert action. Okay. And I am passing the messages. Failed to create associate. And one more parameter is result type. So we can provide this is fail. That's it. Okay. At the same time, in this success scenario, we have to show the success message. So what I'm going to do, instead of using this Xcast map, I'm going to use the switch map option. And here also let me change this into switch map. Finally, using the off operator, we can dispatch the actions. Okay. So let me format this one. Once this action is completed, let me dispatch this show alert also. So in this case, the message is created successfully and the result type is pass. That's it. So we can save this one. So next let me move on the reducer side. So in this reducer, let me create one more new section. So this is for add associate success. Okay. So in this scenario, first I'm returning the exact state. So in this listing, we have to do some changes. First, I am going to include this existing list information. Okay, so after that we can include this action.input data, and in this input data we will get the complete information except the ID because that is the auto generated one. So let me calculate it manually. First let me take the maximum ID, okay, from our existing state. Once we have this maximum ID, so let me create one more variable, new data. Whatever data available in this action, let me take the same one. So in this next line, we can assign the value, that's it. So the maximum ID plus 1, that's it, okay. So here also we can replace this one, that's it. Okay, now we completed in our reducer side. So finally, let me go back to our component side. So in this component side, already we have this save associate function. Here we have to dispatch our action. For that, let me inject the store here. Let me dispatch the action, add associate, input data. Here we need to pass the data. So currently our data available in this form only, but we need to convert this into associate objects, okay? So what I'm going to do, let me declare one object and the data type is associates. Now we can assign the values. The first field is ID. So this dot associate form value dot ID, and I'm converting this into number, that's it, okay. And the second one is name. So the same way I'm going to assign the value for all the fields. So the field name is associate group, but the value is, I mean in our form set it is the group only. And the final one is status. Okay, now we have this object. So let me pass it here, that's it. So let me create one new record, Albert. Email provided, I am also providing one phone number. Once I'm clicked to save, I'm getting this created successfully message, and make sure we have to close this pop-up, okay. When I'm checked here, okay, the entry also it's available. So let me include the code for closing the pop-up. So already we have this function, so let me reuse it here. That's it. I'm creating one more record, okay. So once I'm clicked to save, see we are getting this message, and also the record is updated in our listing, okay. So next let me focus on this edit functionality. So the first thing is when I'm clicked this edit button, make sure I have to open the pop-up and also need to load the existing data. So I believe already I have created the function for the edit. No. So first in this button, let me include like this click event, function edit, and I'm passing the value. So our unique value is ID, that's it. So the same way in this delete scenario, we need function delete. Okay, so let me save this one. We can define both the functions, otherwise we will get the error. Delete, okay. And in this edit scenario also I'm going to open the same pop-up. and this time I'm changing the title update associate, and also the code I'm passing the exact value. So let me try now. So if I'm clicking, I'm getting the screen as create associate. So the same way if I'm clicking this edit, I'm getting this update associate. Okay, and in this update scenario we have to load the existing data. So let me create one more new action. First let me declare the constant variables. So instead of the load we can say get. This is actually for the individual associate information. Okay, get associate, and it's having one props, that is our ID, and the data type is number. Similarly in this success scenario I'm just returning one object. Okay, and the data type is associate. That's it. So let me save this one, and in our effect side I'm creating one new effect. So that is get associate. I'm checking the action type. If it is get associate, I'm calling this get by code functionality and passing the code from our action. That's it. Once it is succeeded, I have to dispatch this add, not add, get associate success. And in this failure scenario, I'm planning to show just one alert message. It's saying failed to fetch the data. So if you want to show the exact error message, it's possible actually. We can just give like this error.message. Okay. So let me save this one. Next we can move on the reducer side. So we can copy this one. First I'm checking get associate success, and in this state there is no changes, and list also no more changes, but in this associate object we have to assign the value. Okay, action.object, and also in our selector side let me create one more selector, get associate, that is enough, and it is returning the integer associate information. Okay, next what I'm going to do in this associate listing side, before opening this pop-up I'm going to dispatch one action. So that is our get associate list, and here I'm just passing this. Okay, why I'm getting the error, let me verify. Okay, actually I have to include the action only. So now it is fine, and the parameters look like ID. Okay, next in our add associate component side, so in this initial load, okay, so here we can subscribe our selector, get associate. It's imported from selector. Okay, so let me subscribe this one. Once I'm having the data, let me assign into our existing form. Okay, using the set value function. So let me assign one by one. Okay, we assigned the value. Okay, so let me format this one. So now I'm trying to edit once again. See, so the data are loaded. Okay, failed to create the action. So let me check the pop-up. So this one, instead of the button, let me use the anchor tag. So let me try once again. See, if I'm clicking this edit button for the Vincent, it is loaded Vincent. So if I'm trying this Albert, so that also loaded. So here the problem is, if I'm clicking this add associate, so basically it should clear everything, okay? So what I'm going to do, let me create one more new action for handling this pop-up, so that we can define in our associate side itself. Open pop-up. And similarly, let me create the action also. So let me save this one. And in this reducer side, let me include one more new section. I'm checking if it is open pop-up. First I'm returning the existing state, and in this error message, not a problem, the list also we can remove. For this associate object, let me provide the empty object, okay? If it is showing some error, and also okay, here we have to provide the default values, okay? So otherwise it will throw the error. We can take the default value from our state itself, okay? So now the issue got resolved. And in this add associate component side, whenever I'm opening the pop-up, it's not here. So in this listing side, okay? So in this add scenario only, so in this open pop-up function, so let me dispatch this open pop-up, okay? And in this edit scenario also, once I'm opened the pop-up, next I'm dispatching this action. So let me close this one. So now if I'm trying, in this edit scenario, it's loaded the data. The same time, in this add time, it's cleared the data, okay? And the next thing is we have to handle this update functionality because the existing data is loaded. So this is not going to take much time, okay? Because already we have completed this create. So most of the codes we can reuse. First, let me declare two variables. So instead of the add, we can provide update. The same way we can create the function also. And we can use our objects. And we can use the exact variables. And the props are same only, okay? So let me save this one. And next in our effect side, I'm just copying this add associate, and then I created update associate, okay? First I'm checking the function. If it is update associate, I'm calling this service update function and passing the same data. Once it is succeeded, I'm calling this update associate success, and in this success scenario, I'm providing the text is updated successfully, failed to update associate, the failure scenario. That's it. Okay, now we have done in our effect side. Finally, we can move on the reducer. So in this reducer also, here I'm just checking if it is update associate success. Instead of taking this maximum value, so let me generate the loop from our existing state. If it is matching, then I'm returning the new data. So that means the updated data. So otherwise we can use the existing one. That's it. So let me format this one, and this one is not needed. We can directly assign this value. Okay. Okay, this is fine. Finally, we can move on the component side. Okay. So in this component side, here I am just checking this object.id double equal to 0. Then this is the add scenario. Okay. At the same time, if it is having the value, that means more than 0. So then this is the update scenario. So here I am going to dispatch this update associate action. Okay. So now let me try once again. So instead of the Ram Kumar, let me provide Akbar. If I click to saved, see, we got the message and also the text is updated. So let me update some other fields also. Instead of Chennai, I am providing Delhi. Changing this level and supplier. If I'm saved, see. So all the fields are updated successfully. Okay. So final one is our delete. For this delete also, I already created the function. Okay. And next thing is we have to create the actions. We can follow the same thing what we are used in our update scenario. So the first thing is we have to declare the variable. So instead of the update, we can use delete. And in this action side, it is delete associate success. I'm changing the variables and the props are, one is just a code and the data type is number, and in this success scenario also same. Okay. Next in our effect side, so let me copy this update. So the same way I'm creating for the delete. Okay. First I'm checking the action. If it is delete associate, I can call this delete service, and here I'm passing the code, and once it is succeeded, I'm dispatching this delete associate success. Again I'm passing the same code, and the text is deleted successfully, failed to delete associate. Okay. And the final one is reducer. So in this reducer side, first I'm checking the action. If it is delete associate success, instead of using this loop, what I'm going to do, let me use the filter. Okay. If id so this is a condition, and I'm adding the same new data, that's fine. And finally in our component side, I'm checking one confirmation. Do you want to remove? If yes, let me dispatch the action. So that is our delete associate. Okay. So now we have completed the functionality. We can verify this one. If I'm trying to remove this one, do you want remove? See, the record got removed. So let me remove this fourth record also. See, it is removed and also it is updated in our listing. Even if I'm refreshing also, it is completely removed. So now we almost completed all the functionality. So before closing this video, let me provide my final demo. So initially whatever data available, it is loaded in my listing. So when I'm clicking this pop-up button, it is opened. If I'm clicked to save, it is not saved because we have a validation. So let me provide some values. Added the phone number. Whenever I am entering the value, the color is changed red to blue. Okay. Some value and the group 3 supplier. So once I'm clicked to save, I got the message. At the same time, if I'm checking, it is reflected here. Now I'm trying to edit this one. So instead of level 3, I'm providing level 1 and it is the customer. Once I'm saved, I got a message and also it is updated here. Finally, I'm trying to remove this record. I got a confirmation message. Do you want to remove? Once I'm clicked OK, it is removed. Okay. Okay, now we successfully completed our demo. Now we are in the end of the video. So actually in this NgRx series, we are almost done. Still I am not explained two more packages that I will cover in the upcoming videos. So still if you have any doubts or clarification, please post in the comment box and also please don't forget to subscribe my channel. Thank you. Thanks for watching.